So, Avi, thank you so much for reaching out and seeking guidance on these cases. I know you get the most complex cases, so, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lee. This has been a very challenging and complex case. I'm hoping the assistance of this team would help me assist and safeguard Miss R.
I'm looking at the email that you sent over that has some of the demographics of the client that we're going to discuss today. So we're talking about Mrs. R, who is 71 years old, widowed, Hispanic woman. She's bilingual, fluent in both English and Spanish. Um, and she depends on a wheelchair for mobility and may have some cognitive impairment. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay, great. So can you start off by telling me a bit more about your concerns?
Our concerns regarding Miss R's related to financial exploitation, abuse, and neglect. Specifically, she have two family members that are living with her stepson and her great niece. Our concerns regarding her stepson are due to physical abuse. About a year ago, he has slapped Miss R across her face and has been menacing towards her, specifically with a plastic knife. More recently, we received an update that he has decompensated and has started exhibiting aggressive behavior towards Miss R. Um, with the great niece, our concern is that she has access to Miss R's finances. Specifically, she has her ATM card, so she has the ability to take out money without her consent.
That sounds really concerning, and there's definitely a lot happening in this case. So let's walk through a brief safety assessment plan. Is that okay with you? Because I'd love to get a bit more background since it sounds like there has been a history of threatening violence.
That sounds good.
Okay, great. Has Miss R's stepson ever threatened to kill her?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
No direct threats.
Yeah. Are there firearms in the home to your knowledge?
None to my knowledge.
Okay. I think it makes sense if on a future home visit or conversation with Miss R, if it comes to light that there's a bit more evidence potentially of physical violence, it may make sense to ask permission to take photos or get additional documentation of that. And maybe we can have law enforcement or a medical professional on the team give a bit more guidance on how to proceed.
Sounds good.
Are you aware if Miss R has ever contacted law enforcement in the past?
Yes, in the past, about a year ago, there was an incident with her stepson slapping her across the face. Miss R did initiate 911. NYPD responded, and the stepson was taken to the hospital. He was admitted for inpatient psychiatric treatment. We're aware that he's diagnosed with schizophrenia and major depressive disorder. That was probably the last time that he received treatment. As I stated earlier, he has decompensated and become aggressive again, which might be an indicator that he's not in treatment. Then 2 weeks ago, we got an update that he attempted to push her. We do not know if there was any 911 that was initiated.
There may be additional history that we're not aware of that it could be helpful to get a bit more context on the situation. I can reach out to our law enforcement representative on the team and see if they can provide some of that context. If that's helpful, let me know.
Helpful, yes.
Do you have any more info on Miss R's care needs? I know you've discussed that she has some cognitive impairment.
In addition to the cognitive, there is the physical part that she requires a higher level of care. She does have mobility issues, as you mentioned earlier. She uses the wheelchair. She requires assistance with both her activities of daily living and her instrumental activities of daily living. Areas specifically such as cleaning, shopping, showering, and her overall personal care. And even though right now she's getting Meals on Wheels, that service is in place, she's still unable to prepare that meal independently, whether it's removing the wrapper, putting it in a microwave. She's not capable of doing that, and she depends on her great niece, who's supposed to be helping her to address that concern. We did try to assist with implementing home care services, but that service has been unsuccessful. Her stepson has interfere with that service. About 2 weeks ago, a nurse came out to do an assessment, and he prevented that nurse from entering the apartment to assess Miss R. So he's a barrier to implementing that service. And with the great needs or concerns that she's not capable of even providing Miss R with her medication, she's not qualified to do that.
Yeah. And the expectation is that the grandniece is providing that care, but you don't think it's happening?
Correct.
Yeah, that can be really problematic, particularly if she doesn't have the ability to prepare meals on her own, do the laundry on her own. She definitely needs someone in the home who can help her with those things, and it sounds like there's nobody present to do that.
Exactly, a skilled professional.
Absolutely. In terms of skilled professionals who are involved with Miss R, do you know if there's a primary care physician in place or that she's been in contact with?
So in the past, yes, we're aware that she had a primary care physician.
Okay.
We do not have any record of her diagnoses. We cannot confirm that she is compliant with any treatment. We do not know the last time that she went to visit her primary care physician. Miss R in general has issues recalling information. Her cognitive state is declining in areas such as orientation, person, place, time, circumstances, issues. Her own medical health status, she's not aware of what her problems are. So any assistance with identifying this would be greatly appreciated.
Do you know if there's a healthcare proxy in place?
We aren't aware of any healthcare proxy.
So it sounds like she has a high level of care that she needs. She's not seeing her primary care physician. Her caretaker that's supposed to be in the home isn't really helping. And on top of that, she's at risk of physical abuse by her mentally ill stepson. Is that like a pretty solid?
Yes.
All right, so I'd like to shift gears to her financial situation. You expressed that the grandniece has access to her ATM cards and may be using that inappropriately.
Correct. So Ms. R has no knowledge of her finances. When we ask questions to her, she often redirects us to speak to her great niece. We do know that she receives Social Security income, and she does have a pension. But Ms. R does not know what her monthly expenses are. And the great niece, who is supposed to be taking care of her, is not willing to cooperate or provide anything to us. What we do know is that Ms. R does own the home. The deed is in her name. There are property taxes owed, approximately $10,000, which is an automatic red flag.
Yeah.
Because if you're acting in the best interest of Ms. R, then there would not be any arrears, right? We do know, we cannot confirm whether or not there is a foreclosure at this time. I do suspect that there might be delinquency with other bills, household bills. We've requested financial records, but we haven't received those documents as yet.
Okay.
So we're still investigating that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the perfect time to reach out to us so that we can also help you figure out what documentation might be appropriate, what you do need to focus on in your investigation. So I would say that as bank statements start coming in, if the grandniece ends up producing a copy of the power of attorney, it might be appropriate to reach out to us again, and we can involve the forensic accountant. We can talk to law enforcement on the team or our medical professional who can maybe give you a bit more context on a capacity assessment, on what specifically is going on with the bank statements. But before we finish, are there any cultural norms that you think we should be aware of in the case?
Yes, Ms. R considers herself the matriarch of the family. She loves her family. She'll take care of them. She wouldn't want to see them get hurt or anything to jeopardize them, right? She cares about them deeply. So she would not want, for example, there to be an order of protection. She would not want to revoke the power of attorney, allegedly, that the great niece have. Or even as far as eviction, she would not want to proceed with that because she cares about her family.
It can be really difficult to pursue legal action against the people that you care about the most, particularly if they're supposed to be taking care of her. So I can understand that, and it's really important that we honor her choices. What would you say Miss R would like to happen in this situation?
I think Miss R, there's no doubt that she loves her family. But at the same time, she also wants her needs to be met.
Yeah.
Um, she has spent her entire career as a school teacher. She has cared for children, her community, teaching, supporting others, right? Um, we know that she's being socially isolated, and this may be a tactic that the family is intentionally using.
Well, there's definitely a lot going on in this case, and I can see how it could be overwhelming for one particular system to handle. I think it's important that we involve the EMDT and get as many eyes on the situation as possible. So, I'd like to recap some of the recommendations that we've discussed so far. You've identified a safety plan that's in place, and you're going to continue to support Miss R in doing so. We may involve the forensic accountant depending on the statements that come in. Perhaps the grandniece will provide a copy of the power of attorney, in which case we might get the civil attorney involved who can help review some of that documentation. I'm going to connect with law enforcement and see if there's any context that we can provide on the situation. And I'm also going to send you the details on our next EMDT meeting and coordinate your availability. I can help you with the case presentation for that as well. Anything you need along the way, just let me know. And particularly if there are any updates that come along in the case before that time, we can absolutely collaborate and communicate before the meeting. Just let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lee.